So it's been a really long time since I said this. Not the album review thing, because I did just bring that back. But it's been a long time since I said we're here to do another McCartney review. So that's right, hello and yes, welcome back to another album review, guys. Now, I wanted to do another one straight off the bat after doing the last one, just so you guys knew that the album reviews are back now. They're here to stay, which is pretty cool. I really enjoy doing these. They're a lot of work, but I really enjoy coming to you guys, just talking about an album. It's fun, I enjoy it. And what people need to remember at the end of the day is this is just my opinion, this is my review, this is my opinion on this album, my take on these songs. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're doing another McCartney one today. Today we're doing Tug of War. We're still going in chronological order, that's right. About 2-3 years ago I said I'm going to do them all and I'm going to go in order. So I done McCartney 1 all the way through to Back to the Egg. Then Egypt Station come out, so I thought, you know, that's new. I'm going to squeeze that one in. Then we done McCartney 2. So here we are with Tug of War, and I can tell you which one will be after this. It'll be Pipes of Peace. Tug of War, I have talked about this a fair bit on the channel. You know, I've done quite a few videos on McCartney outside of just the bog standard reviews. I might have even reviewed this album like 5-6 years ago when I was just doing little ones. But this is going to be my proper in-depth one here. So I'm pretty sure most people are going to know my opinion on this album already who are watching this. But this is my in-depth review of it. So it's an album which I really like. Of course, it's one of my favourite McCartney albums. Here's my original copy. I also purchased it on CD. I also purchased this very nice little box set on it. And also, I have the archive vinyl. So yeah, I really, really enjoy this record. Hence all the copies. So, let me put this CD back. There we go. So in this review, I'm going to do the usual. I'm going to give you a bit of information on the album. We're going to go over each track individually, scoring them each out of 10. I'm going to show you my copy of the vinyl record. We're going to mark the artwork for this out of 10. We're going to add up all those scores, divide them by the total number of scores given, which gives us an overall marking for this album out of 10. So, Paul McCartney Tug of War, this was released on the 26th of April 1982. This was the third solo album, I guess you could say, after McCartney 2, and then this one. Third one under just Paul McCartney. Of course, Ram was under Paul and Linda. Then we had all the Wings albums. But technically it was the 11th studio release from McCartney since the Beatles breakup in 1970. It hit #1 in many, many countries, including the UK and the US. And this was a first for many things. It was the first album after Wings had officially broken up. Even though Denny Laine still performs on here, and of course Linda does. It's the first album where Paul got to work with George Martin again, which is very exciting, of course, producer of, you know, that other band McCartney was in. Only joking, of course, George Martin produced nearly all the Beatle records other than Let It Be. That was Mr. Phil Spector, but he come back, first time Paul worked with him since, so that's really exciting. Denny Laine is back on his album performing. Ringo Starr is on his album performing. There's duos with Steve Winwood and Carl Perkins. There's some other really cool bits and bobs going on this album. Eric Stewart's on here from 10cc. But this is also the first album which was made after the death of John Lennon. So I believe around the time of this album coming out, there was a lot of anticipation for this record. People weren't too happy with George Harrison or Ringo Starr's recent efforts. I think Ringo's album that came out just before this would have been Stop Smell the Roses and Old Wave, which neither of them are very good albums. And George Harrison had Somewhere in England, which I don't mind that one, but I get the impression that it's an album that not many people care about. So I think a lot of people were looking to Paul to hopefully save the solo Beatle, not reputation, but the way that they were going. And of course, it was a home run. You know, he done very well. So yeah, there was a lot of anticipation around this album, but there was a lot of firsts going on it, as I said. So let's get started on this, and I'm going to explain why this is a really good album. So it opens up with the title track, Tug of War, which is actually, it's a good song. It's a good song, as you'll see from my score. But it's still one of, actually, I'd say, considering I like a lot of songs on here a lot, it's one of the bottom songs for me, but not one of the weak ones, because I don't want to say this song is weak, 'cause it's not, but it's one of the lesser songs for me. It was one of the singles released for this album. It wasn't the first one. It's kind of hard to find on vinyl. I don't actually own it, so I don't think many people bought this one, but it's a nice opening with this great acoustic start to it, with some really nice vocals. And of course, Linda provides some really good backing vocals, and Linda's backing vocals for me can be very hit and miss. I found on a lot of the Wings stuff, she tended to annoy me a bit. She had a bit too much presence. Not her fault. I think it's more down to the production of some of those Wings albums. Whereas this album nails it perfectly, how loud her backing vocals should be. And this song is a great example of that. They're a really good volume, and she sounds great. The production on this song is just amazing. And the small portion of horns which comes in throughout this song is also really nice. So I'm going to give Tug of War an 8 out of 10. I think it's a very good song. But as you'll see, I do think it's one of the weaker ones on the album, actually, funny enough. It then just bleeds straight into the next song, Take It Away, which was released as a single. Take Away wouldn't have been the main single. That would have been Ebony and Ivory, I believe. But this was released, second single, if not first. And I do own this one. You can find this one quite easily. It's a really nice song. But the first time I heard this song was actually through the music video, which is great. So a really, really nice music video, featuring wonderful actor John Hurt, which people will know from the first Aliens film. He's the guy who gets the alien ripped out of his chest. He was also in the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, playing the War Doctor. So yeah, he's a big actor. John Hurt, fantastic actor. I love him. R.I.P. of course, unfortunately. George Martin also appears in the music video. Of course, he produced this whole album, so we do get a little glimpse of him, which is nice. Ringo Starr is in the music video, which is fun because he is playing drums on this song. It's great. And this song also, you have Denny Lane performing on this song, I believe. Pretty sure he's in the music video as well. And of course, Eric Stewart from 10cc is performing on this song, which is also very cool. I like 10cc, they're a good band. And you can actually tell that a lot of this album is influenced by 10cc and Stevie Wonder. I think those were the biggest inspirations to this album. And you could hear especially the 10cc vibes going on in this song, especially during the verses, which are really nice. They're really great. They sound fantastic. I want to say amazing bass guitar work. And I could be wrong, but I believe he's playing a Hofner bass in this one, which might be one of the first times he's picked that up in a while. And it just sounds fantastic. It's got that really nice echoey sound to it, and it just sounds brilliant. It's one of Paul's best bass performances, I think, this song, from the 80s at least. Amazing guitar work as well throughout this song. The chorus is so fun and catchy. I just really enjoy this song. It's got a nice uplifting beat to it. It's really good. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Really good song. Then we go into a song called Somebody Who Cares, sorry, which opens up with a Spanish guitar, which is very interesting because the first two songs, obviously this album came out in 82, it's got that real 80s feel to it, that real 80s production. It hasn't gone overboard though, which is what a lot of artists used to do. I'm looking at you, Elton John. They went too overboard, I feel, with the old 80s vibe, a lot of these classic rock artists, and it kind of damaged them a bit in the 80s. And don't get me wrong, Paul did end up there. Press to play. But this album, he doesn't quite get there. But you can hear, obviously, the 80s sound, the 80s style. It was the 80s. You're allowed to sound like that. It's not a complaint. But you could the first two kind of, you feel it. Whereas this one starts off with a Spanish guitar and you're like, okay, this is really different. This sounds like it could be more from the 70s. But then, of course, it goes into what the song actually is. And it's a really good song. The lyrics range from... They just range. It goes from... It's strange. It goes from okay to being really strange lyrically. But there are some really good lyrics in there as well. It's got a nice flow with the vocals. Linda does great in the chorus, I think. Really good vocals from Linda again. And I really, really enjoy this song. The chorus is beautiful. It's really nice. It would have worked really well as a ballad, this song, I think, as well. Which would have been interesting. But hey-ho, I like the style Paul chose to go with because every album we get a ballad from Paul, so it's nice to get this one that's a bit different. I'm going to give this song an 8 out of 10. Then we got What's That You're Doing, which is the first of 2 Stevie Wonder collaborations. And as I say, Stevie Wonder influenced this album quite a bit, because not only is he on 2 of the tracks, I feel like you can really feel his style coming off on songs like Dress Me Up As a Robber, which we'll get to. But him and Paul bounce off each other really well. And I think Paul was just honoured to have Stevie Wonder there, because Paul's always been a big Stevie Wonder fan, as we know. Even way back in '73, he put on the back of his Red Rose Speedway album in Braille, because Stevie Wonder's blind, put "We Love You, Stevie," I believe. So when you rub your hand across it, that's what it says in Braille. So it's really cool that Paul's got to work with Stevie, because obviously being big fan of his, it's always cool to work with your heroes, I'm sure. Got a fun, funky keyboard bit to it, which I'm sure Stevie orchestrating most of that. And it's a nice song. It is. I never really liked this song much when I first heard this album. I always thought it was like a 5, 6 out of 10 song, where it's like, it's alright. But over the years, it's really grown on me. I've come to appreciate it for what it is. Just a tad too long, I think. But I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Then we've got the closing track on side 1 here today, which of course is the song written and dedicated to John Lennon. It's about an imaginary conversation they might have had, and wow, it is a kick in the balls. It is just to put it straight, it is potentially the most emotional song I've ever heard. It's hard to listen to, it's hard to sing, everything about it is just gripping, and it tears your heart out, and it's beautiful. It really is. It's just a beautiful song. Paul does a great job to sing it as well as he does, because it's hard. I've seen him sing it live, where he's nearly breaking down. You can hear his vocals starting to get wobbly. The Amoeba gig vinyl that just come out, he does a great version of it on there, and you can hear him at the end getting a bit wobbly. And then he even says to the crowd afterwards, he's like, nearly got to me, that one. Which is crazy, because that's 30 years nearly after the death of John Lennon that was recorded, and still singing about it. It obviously brings back a lot of good memories that he has with John, and how much he misses him, as we all do. So it's a beautiful song. The acoustic's great, the strings sound fantastic. The production on it isn't overdone. It sounds nice. I think the echo effects on the vocals that they've got going on there, a little bit too much, but it's a really good song. I don't want to criticise this one too much. I don't want to give this song a pass because of what it's about, but I do, because it's such a sad thing. We love John. We were all, well, I wasn't around when it happened, but, even today I look back at it and it's a horrible thing what happened to him. I'm going to give this song a 9 out of 10. Beautiful track. We're moving on to side 2 of the record now. We're opening up with a track called Ballroom Dancing, which has a great heavy piano opening to it, which we really need. We really need it, especially after here today. And I've got a personal guilty pleasure towards this song. I've always really enjoyed it. When I first got into collecting records, the one McCartney record my dad had was Give My Regards to Broad Street. And people were going to say, why did he buy that one? It's because, when my dad was young, he looked at the back and saw Beatles songs. That's why, I can guarantee it. So I know the Ballroom Dancing version on there, which isn't too different to this one. I do prefer this version. But I love the heavy lead vocals that Paul does. It kind of reminds me of how he sung Lady Madonna a bit. And the horns that come in every now and then. I think there's like a little trumpet solo or something like that. Excuse me, I'm not super intelligent when it comes to all these instruments and stuff. I listen to them and I'm telling you what I think. But there's some sort of trumpet, some sort of horn. It sounded fantastic. I really, really enjoyed this song. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Then we got The Pound Is Sinking, which is one of the more underrated songs of this album. When people go to talk about this album, they always talk about Take It Away, Here Today, Ballroom Dancing, Wanderlust, and Ebony and Ivory. I never hear anyone really talk about The Pound Is Sinking, but to me, it's one of my personal favourites on this album. It sounds so cool. I love how it opens with the coin like rolling around like a dish or something. It sounds fantastic. I'd say potentially the best vocal performance Paul gives on this entire album. Great guitar work. Love the really quick bit. Yeah, it's just a really good song. I'm going to give this track a 9 out of 10. I really, really, really enjoyed this song. Then we get Wanderlust, which is the ballad of the album. Like I was saying earlier, Paul always likes to chuck a little ballad on his albums, which I love. His ballads are always great. And this one's no exception. This one is fantastic. Really nice sounding song. It's just very easy listening, very smooth. It's like a knife through butter. It's got some beautiful vocals to it, and the slow parts to this song just really work. And the chorus is just great. It's just building tension, and it just works so well. I'm going to give One Lust an 8 out of 10. Then we got Get It, which is the duo track with Carl Perkins. One of the most forgettable songs on this album, unfortunately. I like Carl Perkins. I remember picking this album up for the first time, and I was like, okay, Stevie Wonder, cool. Stevie Wonder again, and oh, Carl Perkins on here. That'll be a good listen. You know, it's so forgettable, this track, unfortunately. There's one bit I really like, and it's a bit that Carl Perkins sings, where he goes, once I had myself a Spanish guitar, the neighbours told me I could go very far. Well, I come and I went, and my guitar got bent. I'm pretty sure that's the lyrics anyway. They're so silly and sappy, but it's a really fun little line that he has there. It flows off the tongue really well. But that's the only memorable thing about this song. Their vocals don't gel together very well. It's almost like they didn't know where they wanted to go with this song. But it's not bad. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Then we got Be What You See, Link. Now, I know some people are going to be like, you shouldn't judge that as its own thing. But I always look at it as, they've put the song down as its own thing, so I'm going to judge it as its own thing. If you had it on Spotify or if you had it on your CD player, it is its own song. So I'm going to judge it as its own song. I know that's unfair to some of you, but hey-ho, I'm going to do it anyway. It's pointless. It's a little experimental thing he done. But for what it is, it's a minute of fluff. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. That's all I've got to say about it. Then we got Dress Me Up As a Robber, which is not with Stevie Wonder, but you can tell it's very heavily influenced by Stevie Wonder, this one, and it sounds really cool. Again, it reminds me a lot of What's That You're Doing, where it sounds really 80s. It's got that really heavy 80s production. Again, not a complaint. It sounds good still. But for me, it doesn't hold up as well as other songs here. It's dated quite badly, like What's That You're Doing, I think. But it's nice. The Spanish guitar, it works really well. It's back in this song, really cool. I love the vocals from Paul, really good vocals. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Then we close this album with Ebony and Ivory, and there's not really too much I can say about this one, because everyone knows it. A lot has been said about this song before. It's a classic. Paul and Stevie sound fantastic together, and it's just got a beautiful meaning, the song. I love it, about everyone just coming together, living together, no matter what your race, skin, colour, all that. It's just a beautiful song. I love it. I'm going to give that song a 9 out of 10. So, anyway, now let's take a quick look at the cover. So here's my original copy, which is in pretty good condition. You know, it does the job, you know. I don't really play this anymore because I've got the archive vinyl. So this is now just to say, hey, look, here's a copy of Tug of War from 1982. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so I love the artwork on this album. I think it's fantastic. Paul was known for not having great album covers at this point. You know, I like the cover to Ram. I like the Band on the Run cover. I like Back to the Egg. But other than that, I don't think any of the others are considered anything too great. I like the wildlife one though. I just like the nature look to it. Really nice. But so Paul been a bit slated for his covers. So I think he's done a good job on this one. It looks really nice. And then there's the back for all the track listing. And then it's not a gatefold, but you do get a nice inner sleeve. And Paul looks like he's in a conservatory there. Just doing some writing. I really like that photo actually. It's really nice. And then you've got all the lyrics on both sides. And then the record label, the A side goes for a more bluey look, whereas the B side goes for a red one. Very nice. I like the way that it's got some nice custom labels there. Nice old thin vinyl as well. So the artwork to this I really like. I like that it's giving you a nice inner sleeve as well. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So what I've done is I've added up all those scores and I've divided them by the total number of scores given. And out of 10, Paul McCartney's Tug of War is going to get a 7.6. So yeah, 7.6 for me out of 10 on this one. It may be a bit low, you know, if I was to round it up to a whole number, I would go an 8 out of 10 on this one, but I'm going to stick to my 7.6, of course, because that's what I've obviously given it. It's a really good album, it really is. There's a couple spots on it which aren't aging great, but then again, it's from the 80s, of course. You know, there's a lot of, most albums from the 80s have little bits on them like that don't age great. But it's a really good album. It's Paul's best in the 80s, without a doubt, I think. So yeah, very good album. And yeah, there is my review on it. I hope you've enjoyed it as always. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message, and I'll see you guys next time for another video. Bye-bye.